So I'm gonna show you, Ricky, what I do with my sourdough. First of all, my sourdough's name is Bill, because he's dough. So I named him Dollar Bill for dough. And then I gave my friend next door a starter like I gave you, and they named him Phil. Somehow Phil has ended up at my house because they went out of town one time. I don't know, so I still have Phil and Bill. So you can name your starter whatever. But what is going on in here is chemical reaction when you mix flour and water together to create yeast. And way before instant yeast was developed, this is how people made their bread, and they had to keep the starter alive and keep feeding it to continue create that yeast. If you were to keep feeding it, it would just become this huge mess of starter, and you don't need that much. So what we do is you discard what they call discard your starter. Now, once you take some of this starter out, you can use it to cook with. You can make waffles with it. I have a really good pumpkin spice bread I usually make a lot of times. So it can, it can stay in your fridge, or you can give it to somebody else and, let that kind of keep going. So what we're going to do is, this has been sitting out for a little while, and you can see when you store your sourdough in the fridge, it slows down the growing process, which if you don't cook a whole lot, you don't bake, very much, then I would keep it in the refrigerator. Some people keep them on the counter, but if you do that, you have to feed them twice a day. So that's crazy. So I brought it out of the fridge about a couple hours ago, let it sit out a little bit. And you want to add, well, first we're going to take some of it out, and then we're going to put back in the same amount of water and flour. So you're going to do 113 grams of water and 113 grams of flour. I highly recommend, if you don't have a digital scale, this is Pamper Chef's, of course, but the digital scale, because you can do grams, ounces, or pounds, or whatever this is, ounces. I'm going to put it on grams, unit, there's pounds, and then put it on gram. And that way, I'll start it at 0 like that in just a second. So what I want to do first is show you what I usually do here, is I have to take some of it out, because this yeast has grown, and you want to pare down the yeast. You're giving it more food, is what you're doing. So if you take out a lot of this yeast, a lot of the starter, it's a lot better. And you can smell it. It smells good. I know it's a weird smell, but if sourdough's gone bad. I'm gonna stir it up a little bit. The consistency, is kind of gooey, just kind of fine. But I need to get, one thing I did not get out is a container. So once you take this out, put it in something, you can, I'd use it within a week's time probably. But like I said, if you don't do this process, you'll end up with a whole lot of starter, and you don't need. So this is just part of the process, taking some of it out and putting some back, if that makes sense. And I really just eyeball this. I really don't have a measuring stick. I just try to take, I guess, about half what was in there. Okay? So most of the time, I'm going to start out with a level, and I think I gave you the same size jar, but just to give you an idea of how much is going to be in here when I start to feed it, it's about here. Okay, it was up here, so I just took about half out. Okay, now I'm gonna set this aside because I'm gonna feed Phil too, and put his in here, and then maybe I'll make something later. So now we've got our scale. It's down to 0. It's on grams. And I want to measure my flour. I use King Arthur all-purpose flour. Some people start their sourdough with whole rye flour, stuff like that. You don't have to continue to do that. Well, you've already got your starter, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to watch my scale, and it should be roughly a half a cup, really is what it is. But this is a very scientific part of it. You want to make sure you get the right amount. So I'm going to 113 grams of flour. And then, now I use room temperature water. I have no one behind the camera, so I'm hoping that you're seeing all this. Okay, room temperature, doesn't have to be filtered water. I just happen to do that. Oh, I got way too much water. So let's do something here. Get some of this out. Okay. I went way over because I was talking. This isn't like doing a Pampered Chef show where I could do it with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back. It's a little bit harder. All right, I'm down to 112. So get to 113. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got our water, we've got our flour all measured out. And then we're just going to pour it in the jar. I think once you start to do it, it'll make sense. I mean, at first I was like, what am I doing? I don't know why I'm doing this. But it is kind of cool to keep it going. This one's been, Bill has been alive. I know people, they name them names. I've had Bill for, I guess, going on a year and a half. I think it was the summer of 2020 when Parker graduated, and one of his best friends, Trace, wanted to learn how to bake. And I mean, he got into it. He was into the science of it and making sourdough, and he made these homemade cinnamon rolls and pretzels, and he's a great baker. Unfortunately, he went to school up in Maine, so I don't know if we'll ever see him again. But anyway, so that's where my starter came from. So then you just want to mix it up really, really good. Make sure all of that dry flour is mixed in. I did pour in the water, didn't I? See, I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay. Now, once you get all that going, what I like to do is come back around inside the jar and just kind of scrape it down, because I want to be able to see where that line is and how much is in here. And I'll tell you what, it's the best way to make bread. Oh, sourdough bread's so good. Okay, now I've made a mess of things, but that's okay. And what I would normally do, I'm just going to show you. I just put this back on. It's kind of messy. I'll probably clean that in a minute. And then you might let it sit for a little bit longer out of the fridge, but do put it back in the fridge. If you don't, it'll start to grow and it becomes, you don't want it coming out of the jar. So that's my tutorial on sourdough starter. I hope that helps. Now that I have this, I can cook with it. It's good for probably about a week. Store it in the fridge. Or if you're going to throw it away, which happens sometimes with me too, do not pour it down your drain without a whole lot of water. Make it really, really thin and liquidy before you pour it down your sink, because you don't want it to clog your disposal and all that. So just make it really, really watery. I just kind of really do it slowly and just keep at, kind of just getting some of it out and pour it down the drain. So I hope that helps you guys, and I miss you all, and let's get together soon. Okay, bye.